All right. We're live. See there. Not 10:30. Doesn't start at 10:30. Allowance there. I'm gonna check the audio, make sure the audio is good. Then we're gonna get rolling. Let's see. Let's try that one more time. All right. Sounds like we're good. So, the last Cull and Good Bull of Bonfire 2023. This will be photos from Burn. We've already published the photos from before Burn. As you might have noticed, this stack season, we didn't do any Cull and Good Bulls during stack. They were running and gunning fast. A lot of stuff going on. Believe it or not, this is not the only thing that I do. So it was booked, and it was all I could do to keep up with their schedule this year, which is great. And that just left me publishing photos as I had 10 or 15 minutes here or there to process photos and whatnot. So this is not only our last Cull and Good Bull of 2023, this is going to be the first with having anything to do with stack for 2023. But I don't know how you feel, but that feels fine to me. It was a good season. It was an outstanding season. It was a great burn. The whole operation was, as we'll see here, and we'll talk about a little bit. I was so pleased with how burn went. Because the concern with burn is always, is burn going to represent the work that the students have done to the wider public? Because building Bonfire represents the work that Bonfire did. The people who've built Bonfire before. If you built Bonfire, if you love Bonfire, if you know what it means, if you know what it stands for, the Bonfire stack itself stands for the work that Aggies did. And for the See You When It Burns crowd, burn is what it's all about. And, that's fine. If it was easy, anybody could do it. And you just hope that for the sake of the effort of all the Aggies who built Bonfire, you just hope that burn came off good. And it did. Burn came off very well. Of course, there is the one curveball for burn this year. And anybody who watched Burn live, I know you know where I'm going with this. And so before we get this live stream really rolling with photos from Burn Night, I do want to address the issue of the Burn Night live stream. And we'll get to the photos, and I'm really looking forward to sharing those with y'all. I'm going to be seeing them at the same time you are. So this will be an adventure for everybody, but it is important, I think, that real quick address the live stream thing. So for those of you who were at Burn, you know that it's an outstanding night. It burned, stayed up past midnight, all that stuff. for anybody who was watching at home and anybody at Burn who learned later, the live stream did go down, and that was unfortunate. That was terribly unfortunate. Um, Bonfire posted it to their accounts that night. I believe Texags has provided some input since. I hear there are some people who still don't know what happened, and it's unfortunate that some people think they know what happened. But for me, it's really important that everybody understand the data coming from Bonfire through the generosity of Brazos Wi-Fi, who has been putting the live stream on for the entire history of the live stream. I don't think a lot of people know that. Since 2014, Brazos Wi-Fi has been providing the Bonfire live stream for free and never dropped signal ever, including Burn of 2023. There was an issue in the TexAg studios, a decoder issue, which is far above my capacity to understand. As anybody who's experienced me putting these things on knows, there's a whole heck of a lot I don't know about how this stuff works. But there was a decoder issue in the studio. The signal was getting to the studio from StackSite just fine. And for the first time in TexAg's history, they had an issue, this particular issue. So it is unfortunate that our good friend Jim at Brazos Wi-Fi, the year that he helps Bonfire out by sponsoring the live stream that he's been providing for free for 10 years now, the year that he helps Bonfire out, sponsors a live stream, ends up getting his name put on it, is the year they had a decoder issue in the studio that had nothing to do with Jim, but everybody gave Jim credit for. So if you see Jim Bose or you deal with Brazos Wi-Fi, the best provider in the Brazos Valley, no question, say thank you. He's been such a good sport about the whole deal. And so thank you to Jim and Brazos Wi-Fi for providing so many live streams. And if you like Cull and Good Bull Live, know that every single Cull and Good Bull Live goes out over Jim's internet. I'm not only an advocate, I'm also a client. So anyway, let's get to Burn, huh? Starting with Burn Night Yell Leaders warming up in the parking lot. I made a mentioned it at in our last Cull and Good Bull of a Burn last year. The idea of Yell Leaders, this flavor of Yell Leader, was actually suggested by a former Yell Leader who said, hey, throw some fish out in front of everybody, which is, of course, the origins of Yell Leaders. But throw some fish out in front of everybody and, let them be goofy and let them have fun. And maybe one day Yell Leaders will get enough of seeing that and say, you know what, hey, we're going to come out and lead yells. So it's actually become a fun feature of every Burn. And who knows, maybe it will imitate history. Yell Leaders started as upperclassmen trying to make fish do something to entertain at a basketball game. And then when everybody saw how much fun and how much attention the fish were getting, the upperclassmen said, never mind, we want to do that. So, maybe history will repeat itself. This is Head Stack covered with mud. Head Stack Junior, I think at this point we could technically say, Red Pot. He's there. Next year's Senior Head Stack. Getting ready to soak stack. Had already done a little bit of soaking of stack at this point. Stack is soaked. You see back, and we'll see it better. There's the tank. Jet fuel. That's what it is. No doubt about it. Jet fuel. Always been jet fuel. Don't let anybody tell you that it's just red dye. Um, see that process a little bit later. There's the green trailer. Again, I had totally forgotten about this until burnout. And there's the Yell Boys practicing some more. We see the entertainment. I had totally forgotten about this until burn night, and Scott Coker, the chairman of the board of directors, and I were chatting about the evening, and he reminded me that Jim also got this trailer years ago. Gave it to Bonfire. So our buddy Jim helping out all the time. And that's where now the Greens set up shop for burn and sell Bonfire shirts. Stack up there waiting for the pump to turn on. I was pleased this year to see that there was a another disposable layer of clothes rather than getting the clothes that you might wear lighting stack with. Here are Red Pot Log and Dwight Log. Let me zoom in on this. I want to. Um, I don't know if you see this. These are this is root beer, Pepsi. Oops. That's root beer and Pepsi. That's for Dwight. Dwight, as we talked about, Dwight has been a good friend of Bonfire. Dwight first came out to Bonfire in 1994. He had been recruited by the Red Pots. They wanted to borrow some of Dwight's equipment, and Dwight had suggested that his equipment might not be useful to them because he knew what kind of equipment he had. Dwight always had old stuff, and he wasn't sure that it was going to be useful to these college kids who had at that time the support Zachary and all of these other campus luxuries. And so when they asked him to borrow equipment, Dwight said, no, you don't want any of this. And they said, we assure you that we do. And they went back and forth, and they went without Dwight's equipment for a while until 94 was the year that they had to pull Bonfire down and then rebuild it in 2 weeks before burn. And when Dwight saw that happening, Dwight said, you know what, maybe they could use my help. And he came out in 94 and never left again. He was there through the end of 99. And then when we started Stack again, 2003. Well, in 2002, when we were building the Unity Project fires, there he was. 2003, started Stack. There he was again. And Dwight always was there for Bonfire. He passed away this year. And so as happens when Bonfire loses somebody important to Bonfire, a dress log is cut for them, and there's Dwight's. And one of the things Dwight always did, which is always a wonderful thing and a fun thing that every generation that ever built Bonfire enjoyed, was he called bonfire beers root beer. Dwight always had root beer for everybody. Nobody ever got a beer from Dwight. It was always root beer and Pepsi. So when they cut his letters, they filled his letters with root beer and Pepsi cans. Great man, Dwight. Wonderful friend of Bonfire. White digression. I got to cut that tree. A few folks came in to participate in that cutting Dwight log. Here we are soaking the stack there. The baby greens wanted a photo up at stack there. Setting, I'm playing with my little exposure thing here. Second. There we go. There we go. We got it working. Um, so we got the greens in, the baby greens next to the green pot log for a quick photo. Oh, and here get into the first. This is where I'm setting up the time lapse, not the time lapse, the long exposure rig. So there's a bunch of these. These photos don't count, but that's just I'm up on the ladder setting up the long exposure rig. Um, we'll see how that turned out later towards lighting. I got 2 years in a row of good long exposure photos. See if I was able to repeat it. Here we see that gotten some goggle action going on, which is good. Hounds corralling the hose. Better view of those goggles. Red Pots, sponsored by Speedo. I believe that's what they were. I think they were. At the very least, they were swimming goggles. Next year's seniors on top of Red Pot Log. We did get another of them on in front of Red Pot Log, where you can see all the letters. Here a little bit more playing with that long exposure rig. You're going to see those throughout the night. I got the times pretty close to synchronized just right. So we'll see what things look like from the ground about the same time. Pretty good alignment between the ground and what's going on in the long exposure rig. There we see a better look at the pumps setup. Hood open, of course, for that Bonfire engineering. Generator powered by the inverter, whatever, that's hooked up directly to the battery under the hood. Another Dwight log and Red Pot log. A massive Red Pot log. We've seen that a few times this year. That was a huge Red Pot log. Walton's Chiefs for this year. So you see, we're pretty close. That's pretty close. There were the Chiefs there. And there's Nora. That's Dwight's wife. Good to see Nora there. Getting into a little bit of sunset or burn. Got to run around and get that good light. Bet I can't get it straight, right? There we go. That is a beautiful evening. Beautiful evening. One of those will do it. Trying to keep up with all the changing light best I can. Pelt getting their photo. And playing with that long exposure rig. And here's Chris. See here. Chris is running his drone. So the beautiful drone footage that you've ever seen of burn, that's Chris. Chris is a highly competent professional drone pilot. Does drone work. Geology Field School. Look that up. It's a really cool little operation he's got going. Hope to have Chris on the Perimeter Fires podcast. Um, I mean, he's got some truly incredible perspectives on Bonfire, literally, and a terrific example of giving to Bonfire and supporting. I mean, Chris does this better than you'll see anybody do it. And he comes out and he does it for Bonfire for free. He does these beautiful, beautiful drone videos. When Bonfire moved last year, I could call Chris and explain to him what we needed people to understand. It's right next door. It hasn't gone that far. Help people understand that. And I didn't have to say much else besides. And he did this really amazing drone shot of taking off at the old stack site and flying to the new stack site. And doing so, I mean, it was a beautiful perspective. Pretty much, you want people to understand something from the sky. Just tell Chris what you want people to understand. And so he was out there getting some drone work done. I don't know. Maybe it's in my emails and I haven't seen it yet. Not to get anybody's hopes up if it didn't work out, but I know he was trying to do a 3D scan. He's done that once or twice before. So that's what he was working on, and maybe we got another 3D scan of Bonfire. So not only does he do the drone photos and videos, but he also has produced 3D scans that he offers people to download for free. And that's a pretty cool little thing that he does. If those are available, then they will be. Go to Bonfire for that. He'll send that to Bonfire, and then Bonfire will share the link. I mean, I'll share it too once Bonfire shares it. But do follow Bonfire on Instagram and Facebook. Definitely see those links sooner or later if we end up having that 3D scan, and then have fun with it. Like I say, Chris offers them for free, and you 3D print them. You can power carve them. Do whatever you want. It's just so cool to see somebody motivated to share their talents with Bonfire. Considerable talents, by the way. For the record, now we're on shot 258 out of 1400. Again, playing with that long exposure rig. This was the third version of the long exposure rig. I've rebuilt a new one every year. Attaches to one of the light poles. This year, also set up a GoPro. I did that last year. The GoPro didn't turn out so well last year. It ran out of battery after you turn off the lights. Ran out of power eventually before we got to see, all of stack burn. So this year I set up a backup battery and plugged that into the power. And we did actually, it was still rolling tape when I climbed up to take the cameras down and head home. Oh, come on. Tell me I got a better one than that. So I know we've got good video. time lapse video. Right? There's our marine red pot. Now at this point, I believe we're getting close to. I remember we're close enough at this time that I'm starting to get a little nervous. Send that to them. Here's our Burn Night speaker, Joey Dollins. Such a great speech. A great speech. Heard a lot of feedback from it. Still hear feedback from it. This is Mason, his dad, Joel. Joel has a Perimeter Fires podcast coming up. The first Perimeter Fires episode that will be around a perimeter fire. Audio, video from a perimeter fire from Stack one night. And it was a hell of a conversation. I'm looking forward to getting that one out. Senior and junior red pots. Mason was a pisshead butt pot for B2 last year. So as a pisshead, he was the butt pot for the outfit. For the uninitiated, the butt pot is the junior head of Bonfire operations for a core outfit. Piss pot was pisshead. It's a sophomore. Well, Mason was a sophomore butt pot for his outfit. Anyway, point being, here's piss pots for his outfit. This year's piss pots for his outfit. I believe this is the last soak. See a little bit of difference in quality here. This is again, I'm down on the ground. This is the long exposure rig. I'm going to put in a request next year. I can already tell. I'm going to put in a request next year that we have the food somewhere else. This is all the food and vendors. It'd be nice if the long exposure was pointing out into the darkness. Should move all the food over here next year. That was so good to see. Like, great. Great grandkids? How many grades? Yeah. Yeah. That 2 classes after me, 3 classes after me. Yep. Talking about going back, there's Ram. Ram was one of my great pod buddies. See him and his family. more long exposure stuff. I kept testing that. I kept testing it, hitting the button, going up underneath, making sure it was getting the shot. It just worked out so well for the last couple years. I really wanted it to work this year. Brown's taking the last lap around for soaking. Ram and Jim, my buddies. And there's the three of us. Somebody borrow my camera for that one. And there's our gang. Jim used our camera for that one. No ace this year. So I don't know, this this hiccup in the live stream boiled down to some unexperienced, brand new, nobody had ever seen it before decoder issue in the Texag studio. Maybe it's because this is the first year in 15 years that Ace did not come to burn. First burn was 2008. And he's just so old and so deaf and so blind that I couldn't bring him to burn this year. I couldn't do it. Deacon Ron Fernandez leading the invocation. That was something that saw Deacon Frank Ashley at now with the Bush School, long been with the Bush School. He also had been the chaplain for the football team for some years. I saw Deacon Frank at church shortly before Burn last year, and I thought, hey, geez, wouldn't it be cool if we could do an invocation? And of course, it's not my decision to make. But, I had the idea at the moment, and so I asked him after Mass, interested in doing it, and he said yes, and that was awesome. And I told him it's not my call. I'll take it to the Red Pots and tell them that if they're interested, then and the Reds jumped all over it. Talked to some folks going back, and there was a while there where there was an invocation every year. Seemed like the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, there was an invocation. And that went on for a while, and then there wasn't for a while. So they last year the Reds decided that they want to reintroduce the invocation. Deacon Frank had something come up at the last minute, but Deacon Ron came in, and Deacon Ron, I believe, is class of '94, and Deacon Ron came in and did the invocation last year, and it was beautiful, and it was beautiful again this year. So. Here's Joey giving his Burn Night speech, that epic Burn Night speech. Now, something that for sure I know that we're going to do next year, we're going to change up, do a little bit differently. I already talked to Backstage Lighting and Sound, is who brings out the audio equipment, the microphone, speakers, all that stuff. Already talked to them about it. We're going to make sure that we do it next year. I kind of sort of function as the MC on Burn Night, and I'm down there with the camera anyway, so I can figure if we need to stall for a couple minutes or what have you and introduce the next person. And I I cannot explain how bad the delay is. What it does. I mean, if you've ever used a loudspeaker setup where you're talking and there's a loudspeaker echoing what you're saying, you know it's hard. But in a space this big and sound echoing off these trees way back in the back, that it is really really bad. It messes with your perception of how you're talking, and it is not good. And so I found for myself when I'm just getting up saying something as simple as I got to be the bearer of sad news that there's no alcohol at Bonfire, and we'll send you home if you got it. And I've got this feedback delay thing going on. So it sound to me, it feels like I'm saying there's no alcohol at Bonfire because it slows you down, it messes you up. So um, an easy big improvement for burn nights going forward. We've tried earplugs and noise canceling buds, and we've tried everything. And there's just no way around it. Next year, we're going to make sure that we all have live. Everybody who has a microphone is going to have a live monitor in their ears. So when we're talking, we can hear what we're saying, and there's not that delay that slows you down and causes you to kind of slur what you're saying. I think that's going to be a big improvement. But Joey powered right through it. I felt like it caught me up a couple times. Joey powered right through that. So I guess simple people like me aren't going to have that problem. So here's the seniors waiting for the torches. And I started the program here, the shutter program. So I gotta have these photos going while I'm running around taking other pictures. We're getting close to the moment of truth here. Did the long exposure work this year? There's a drone. That might be Chris's drone right there. Now this is me on the ground. Torches coming in. This was a long torch walk. This was a really, really long torch walk. Program is still running. It's taking super long exposure. It's the seniors. Again, that's obviously me on the ground again. One of those, I'll have to bring the exposure back just a little bit. All right, so here we see the beginning of the torches coming in to behind Bonfire there. I wonder if I can bring this back. Oh, no, that's awful. That's awful. It was really dark back here. Well, that's going to be underexposed. Irredeemably underexposed. There we see the torch. These exposures, I believe, were 30 seconds long. Yeah, 30-second exposures. That's 30 seconds of travel right there. This is the shot I try to get every year. Boys with their stack in the background. Torch still. So now it's back over here, off to the right, out of screen. There I am on the ground again. This was a change this year. Lechner brought in the torch. I don't want to get into it. We're not getting into it here. Sometimes tough decisions have to be made. Lechner brought in the torch and Walton walked in behind him. Torch is passed to the junior red pots. You have anybody who's into these photos for lighting bonfire. Obviously, we're getting pretty moment. Juniors take the torch. Ahead to the seniors. Here comes the most nervous walk I have to take every year. Walking behind the juniors, trying to get that shot right there. Trying not to trip over whatever while everybody's looking in that general direction. I don't want to be the asshole who falls on his face walking behind him. Believe it or not, I really worry about taking this shot every year. It's ridiculous as that. Pass the torch. Seniors. And it looks like we are just a couple seconds out of sync. Because you can see the torches start to move in the long exposure. So that program is still running. That's good. But obviously there's still dialed back that exposure a little. I don't know, I think I kind of prefer this one. Leave it in the comments if you have a preference. Just keep getting cooler. So I like the fire and the torch photos sometimes. Let that you let that light hit more. Open that exposure up a little bit more. But I also like it too when that flame is just crisp and clear and everything else is kind of touched by the. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look at those. Again, I try to take the exposures there in the moment and not take one shot and then just the exposure to whatever. It feels like cheating to me. try to get the photo that you want, and if you have some options, then take different exposures and then go with it. I don't know. I think I'm in the minority in that these days with all the things you can do with Lightroom. Torches are passed. They're about to start the laps. Yeah, it looks like we're off. Looks like we might be off by 5 or 6 seconds. Yeah, long exposure. That's pretty close. I can go back and see if I can get a better. That's me on the ground, battling low light. Come back around. 3 laps, as has always been the case. 3 laps around stack. One with mothers, one with significant others. Last lap is the group that led it. So you take those first laps with the people who missed you the most. And then significant others. That's the second lap. And the final lap. Before we light. Now, wait, I'm noticing this has been quite a bit of time. We haven't seen a long exposure shot in a little bit. I am afraid like the program stopped running because at this point we should have seen at least a couple laps. Didn't get it. We didn't get it. So as I mentioned earlier, when we were looking at those torches come in, I mentioned and I recognized it at the time, and I mentioned it while we're looking at it now. That was a really, really torch lap. From the torch being brought in, it was brought to the far side of back rather than right there. So that was a really really long torches. We had a bunch of photos where there was no torch anywhere in the scene as all those as the torch was walking around on the outside. I think that's where we lost the shot. That program ran and it ran a long time, but it didn't run long enough. This point, all right, we'll get over it. It's not the end of the world. Whatever. This point there, we're giving the signal. This is the last signal. Last whirl of the torch there signals everybody to march up the stack. Light it. Light the sheets. So the sheets are soaked. And then that imparts enough energy on the diesel to get the diesel going. Um, you'll see. I think we got one of a torch actually going up. At this point, the sheet has already caught. All right, he's about to toss the torch. Um, I believe we got one of a torch landing up there. He missed it by a little bit. Missed it by that much. I think I caught one of a torch up there on top. It might have been later when they were trying to throw the torches that they. Here's the juniors going to claim their pots that are now theirs. Stack is lit, and they're going to go take the pots from their dads, wrestle for them, and then it's their pot. Uh, but yeah, I can't recall if I got a photo of a torch up thrown up on one of the tiers. Yeah, the torch itself is not going to light the diesel. The torch itself is not going to do the trick. You got to light the sheet, and then the sheet bridges the gap from the torch. But throw the torch up on stack, and I know I saw it. I guess I don't know if I got a photo of it, but I know I saw a torch up there. You see the torch will sit up there, and it it won't start the fire. You just throw the torch up there, and that's where it stays until the fire burns the torch, lighting the sheet. So the yell practice begins. And we'll see. And everybody who was there, um, a function possibly of the weather. No stack was soaked very well. Um, there's a few theories as to what happened, but it took a while for that fire to really get going. And we'll see. Hopefully I captured it, but we'll see that this fire, in my opinion, burned very different. Uh, it was a slow burn at the beginning, and it might not have felt that way. Might not have felt that way. Everybody out here, up inside, you could feel the heat coming off of that fire, coming from the inside of that fire. So even where at this point in normal years, by now everybody's starting to back off the fence, uh, or at least on one side where the breeze is prevailing or whatever. People are backing up, usually because it's that hot. Still, um, this year out here, you couldn't tell. But walking around there on the inside, you felt, even in these, well, here, dark spots that hadn't yet caught. And you could see, I mean, there was smoke coming from inside that thing. Um, just just did not look all that lit. But like I say, we'll see in the photos here how that played out. That had some really interesting effects on it. Now here comes the what used to be the juniors, now senior red pots that are now wearing last year seniors coveralls. I've never been able to get this close to the dress logs at this point of burn. I was able to get right up on pot log and Dwight's log. And you're never going to see juniors, well, seniors, taking their first photo that close to the. So again, I mean, you can see a little bit of it here. I mean, there's fire on the inside. The outside, those are the reds in front of the red pot log. Trying to get the letters there, but I'm also trying to get the reds. More I expose for the reds, who are sort of in the dark there, more of the flames, which are moving around obviously very quickly, kind of lose the letters. I think that's pretty damn close. So, while it might have been cooler looking if this thing had completely caught as fast as people might be used to, it's still pretty damn cool. Out of being able to get that close, structure was still trying to catch. Burning pretty intensely on the inside. Um, Somebody there, an old red there in perimeter, sent me a really cool photo. I'm not one much for having my photo taken. I don't know. Maybe that's why I take pictures, is so I never have to have. He sent me a photo, and I am really, really glad he took that photo. It's really cool. It was uh, this year's senior red pot, last year's senior red pot, next year's senior red pot. But he sent me this photo. This year's head civilian, last year's head civilian, next year's head civilian. But he sent me this photo of inside perimeter walking down red pot log. So red pot log is burning. I'm walking up to it to get a photo of those letters. You know, he's shooting the photo from behind me. Silhouette stalking and just walking into the fire, and it cuts off. Just see somebody walking into the fire. Glad he took that photo and sent it to me. Now, at this point, this is the moment. I'm pretty sure this is the moment where I had heard that the live stream back to the trailer. So this is Texag's view at the Texag's trailer, where they have the cameras and stuff. So I'm just getting some, hopefully, some decent photos while they are informing me that the live stream is actively trying to get it back. I believe it's about now that they're also telling me live stream went down just as the torches were about to light it. So that's where my mind was at the moment, that particular moment. All right. So I'm attempting to get the outhouse, and with this slow burn again, trying to figure out what to do. Effect. Flames eventually did catch the outhouse. Slowly. So you didn't have that. The timing of everything was all switched up. I did start to catch. If there was one positive to the live stream going out, it was that the sheets were lit. Sheets caught the fire where the sheets were, but it didn't spread the way that it often does. And I don't know. Well, I know everybody's gonna sit and talk, later, probably in the spring semester, try and figure out what exactly happened there. If nothing else, out of curiosity, it's not a big deal. The damn thing burned. That's what matters. But still, is if nothing else, curiosity. I know we'll want to try and figure out why it went so slow. But again, if there was a positive to the stream going out, it's that to get the fire to spread from, one section into the sections that hadn't caught yet. Do that before diesel became unavailable, right? The diesel that had been soaked on it. Get all that diesel going while it was still there. You saw them there. They had buckets. So they'd bring the buckets and you got a fire going here. So throw a bucket here and throw a bucket here and throw a bucket here and then get that whole section going. Probably not something that you want people seeing streamed live. The situation's under control. It's being managed. The communication is clear. The strategy is clear. Here's the outhouse fully. Everybody knows what they're doing, and everybody's got an objective, and everything's cool. But everybody, all the Monday morning quarterbacks watching it live, certainly going to have opinions. There was one positive to the live stream going out. It's that they needed to do, which was throw a little bit more diesel. And that's not unprecedented. That there's a reason why people know that strategy, when to do it and how to do it. That has happened. That has happened going way back. There have been years where it was slow to start or spotty to start. Precedent. This is how you do it. Move and fill in everywhere. Now, again, we see how dark it is over here. This Spot log, I believe. Spot log. This is Dwight log. See, back behind. This is going. Say, just a really, really interesting burn. There's the outhouse starting to go. Starting to lose big chunks. Obviously, it's been burning for a little. The moments in burn are lighting it moment. When the outhouse first catches, there's another big moment. Outhouse falls. This year, I was actually borderline concerned for a little bit that we might not have like the big outhouse fall experience again. Not like it really matters, necessary thing that happens, but it always happens where the outhouse, that usually the whole outhouse catches and it's all burning apart at the same time, and then it comes apart at the seams and comes down. The way it was burning at first is it was just kind of slowly burning through the outhouse, starting at one side and working through. Uh, Took some of that diesel work to get it where the flames caught the whole structure and worked their way up to the top, caught the outhouse from all. Eventually, it did have like a fall, the outhouse, rather than just slowly. I feel like in recent years, I have really not had super great luck on the outhouse. I was really trying to make sure that I caught it this time. Well built. There we lost it. I'll have to go back and we are. Oh, geez, we're already 15 in. We've got 2/3 of the way through. Getting towards. One of the ones we looked at. I'm gonna have to be pretty selective at what this year's donor print is going to be. Um, it's going to be an interesting donor print. Everybody who knows Bonfire will be able to look at it and go, "Hey, I know." We won't even have to put the year on it. People will look, "Oh yeah, that was Bonfire 2020." It's going to become more and more apparent in these final shots of the night just how much of the interior burned. Alton perimeter there. Crowd control. And we see this starting to happen here where there's almost the effect of burn, almost like a shrinking effect of a burn where the whole thing engulfed. And the effect that was happening this year was the inside is burning and the outside is falling into the inside. So rather than the whole structure burning up, outside, which is still not fully caught, just squeezing in on the inside. Here I'm after this. Get the ABT in the shot. Always a good look, for people with questions about how Bonfire is built now. This is always a very instructive part of the night. This is one of the windle sticks still standing. You see the glowing hot wires, the nest matrix of glowing hot wires. I know there's some ones later of superset cables, and you can see how that structure remains intact throughout even the burning. Not only does it hold the structure together while it's being built incredibly well, it's still holding the structure together as it burns. Pretty incredible. another trick to this year. All right, so here, all right, maybe we make up for the long exposure getting lost. So I went back to the camera again, not knowing at the time that torch laps were missed. Went back to the camera and started that same program running again. And while we didn't get the torch laps, kid who came up to me, I think it was last year's senior head stack, who said, "Hey, see if you can get one." Moon being distorted in the sparks, and it's tricky. In here, look, you see the window sticks. One, two, collar still going in. Look at that. There's the window stick. There's the collar, still holding the thing together. Incredible. One. So, oh yeah, so where we were, we've got window sticks, set cables, everything still holding everything together really, really well. Fire burning from the inside out. That made it for a long night for their buddies after burn, because for safety reasons, nobody is allowed to start walking their laps until the twist. And that's I don't know, I'd say you could call it a new thing, but it's happened for 20 years now. Not exactly a new thing anymore. The way that Bonfire, quote unquote, falls now, twist. So, uh, what we're looking at here, this is definitely this shot right here is definitely going to be. Shout right here is definitely going to be Hill County Muster is where I'll be speaking. This just illustrates that that's a massive log. This is right one still on it. See, this log is leaning up against, putting all of its weight against the stick, and the windle stick is still arrow straight, 12 feet down into the ground, still strong, burning, but still there. I mean, illustrating. And then here, here's the red pot log, here's Dwight's log. Everything else is burning out from the inside. You can start to see through to the inside. You see how much of the structure is now gone on superset cables, sagging from what little is left behind them, the nest of wires, and the structure still staying together. Illustrating again just how well the structure is built. I mean, it's ingenious. People talk about, we're a university of engineers. We must be able to figure out how to build. Well, guess what? We did. Here's how you do it. We're a university of engineers. Somebody's got to figure out how to do it. We figured it out 20 years ago. Thank you. Figured it out 20 years ago. Not only did we figure it out 20 years ago, we figured out how to teach people how to teach people. And that's how you wind up 20 years later with a structure like this. It is burnt from the inside out and is still keeping itself together. Anyway, so what I was getting at, a long night. Look, they still haven't started their laps yet because there hasn't been the twist. And so what happens in normal years is that it burns all together. It shrinks, the available amount of wood almost disappears, almost sort of uniformly, I guess would be the best way to put it. And the cables have less to wrap around. They start to slip down. So the superset cables are tied at the top and the bottom between every tier, every step down in length of log, and every 3 feet out. So there's many sets of superset cables on top of all the wires. As the structure burns away, there's less for those cables to hold on to, and they start to slip down. Slip down with the structure still burning, and what'll end up happening is it will twist one way or the other. All the logs go this way, or all the logs will go this way. Either way, the whole structure twists because the wires are now looser, because the logs are now smaller. Twists in this bloom. And we've seen it before. Go back and look at burn night photos from any year. I've got burn night photos going back to 2010. You'll see that twist action. And it's a really, really cool moment where the whole thing twists. And that is the new version of the old center pole falling, center pole burning through and falling. Now the twist is the thing. And I know, there was I mentioned it in one of the forums this year, Facebook groups, the twist. Old Army asked, well, what are you talking about, the twist? So, it was a teaching moment about how the new fire behaves and why it behaves. But still, people can't walk their laps until the twist happens because sometimes the twist is uneven and it's not a uniform bloom action. sometimes the twist is lopsided or the structure kind of leans. So you don't want anybody doing their laps and stack is going to go where its tendencies are. So you've got a ton of people just sitting around waiting for the twist so that they can walk their laps. And I'm going to try something here. We've got these photos interspersed. When we're at a certain point here, I'm going to go back to just these long exposure photos. I heard somebody told me that looked back at the Texag stream. They played it through fast. Time lapse, I guess Texags did a time lapse or something. Played it through fast. They said that they saw a twist just extremely slow. So after we finish going through these photos, do a little parting experiment. Let's narrow it down to these exposure photos. Again, look at that framework. That metal framework is still holding tight. Again, the outside logs, at this point, they're still just largely unburned, leaning in on a structure that's mostly burned away on the inside. This point, we did start to see the structure. You see, this was a windle stick. You see this. I don't know if you can tell this here, but what this is that this is a large log that is leaning on windle stick cross tie, metal cross tie. Finally gotten so hot for so long. Still vertical windle stick. See the bend a little bit better there. This one's still straight out. This one should be coming here. That's clear as day. You see the taller logs logs themselves starting to bend. And now about this point too, I'm starting to think, all right, hey, we might get a twist. I'm waiting for the rest of these windle cross ties to that's the other thing that's going to just locked in. You need those cross ties to kind of give way. Polar logs in the middle twist. Well, the twist is coming. See a shower of sparks. There were many such showers this night as more room opens up and things shift on the inside. It's that movement that starts leading to the twist. So you'll start to see these big clouds of sparks, usually, that indicate a twist is about to happen. Enough space in the interior that logs are starting to move. Interior, that means that the whole thing is going to. This was an unusual burn. Look here, what I'm trying to get. I sort of get it. You could see through from one side of the stack how much that it had burned out on. through the burning stack. Walton doing their Grode yell. Now, at this point, I'm trying to get the if something's going to happen, I want to be over here, checking back in over at that Aggie Bonfire trailer in the background, hoping that if it does twist at all, I can get that happen. And I'm quickly losing hope that that's going to happen. Look at how little of the fire is left. Still no twist. So everybody there had such a low. Yeah, this is 12:54. At this point, I'm still also thinking that the chicken closes at 2 a.m. Later, that the chicken closed on this night 1 a.m. Another of the big shower of sparks. You see center pole is still in there. More Windle stick holding tight. That was really incredible to watch. Now here, after all that waiting for a twist, after 20 years of getting a twist instead of center pole falling, 102 seconds a.m. center pole fell. There was no twist. At least as Aggies have come to expect it, there was no pole fell. 102.08. Run. The ABT was back here. I was hoping to get a twist from over here. Center pole started to give, so I ran over. There's the center pole. There's the top. Out of sparks. But at this point, the structure is radius of what is left to come down. About center pole there. More. Safe. And see here some more of those first tier logs. So those are 32. I'm over here on the far side. Let's see if we can tell. There, right here, that's where I am. This moment, I'm shooting up at those. And those are first tier logs, 32-foot logs, the top of such a unique burn, truly, really unique burn this year. Leave in these last few is when we're going to see people starting to migrate. These are the people who built Bonfire. At this point, most everybody else has left, built it, going to do their class set of laps. I think most everybody there was expecting that they were going to be long gone. I thought I'd have been long gone. Round, getting them beginning movement there, but with that long exposure at 30 seconds, should become clear once more people are it's always a cool moment. Very end, everybody walking their lap. Whole year, all that effort, all that time. Beautiful exercise of taking this thing that you spent so much time looking at it for 2 days at the most. You might spend 10 minutes looking at it. Log is put in. You might yourself go spend 10 minutes looking at what you did. Aggies Bonfire is always going to be something special to Aggies. Whether Aggies there have always been, it has always been the case, and don't anybody tell you that it's ever, 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 ever in the entire history of Texas A&M ever been different. And that Bonfire means a lot. Has that meaning because of the people that build, because those people do build. Time where so many people are talking about Bonfire. Let's have something on campus, and the hell with who builds it, and whatever. Have somebody else build it, engineer it, build a permanent bonfire looking structure, and we'll all go stand around and look at it. Whatever. That doesn't count. That doesn't mean anything. Always been the case that there have always been a very, very, very select few small group of people have what it takes to make Bonfire count. Have the courage and the conviction and the capacity and the will to make Bonfire mean something. And they make Bonfire mean something by so at a time where there's a number of people who think that the right thing to have any kind of fire at all in a place that's convenient for people to drive to, and that's what's important. These Aggies have proved once again that what makes Bonfire special. These are the select few Aggies who have the ability to ever tell you how is any different than the past. Even in eras where people talk about used to be mandatory. Well, those people who were mandating, those people who were responsible for it's not the way it worked. Yeah, maybe everybody came out and touched it one time, maybe not one time that they painted, or one time. At the end of the day, it was a small, select group. Those Aggies that built Aggies who live for the build that make credit and thanks and all the support in the world. And as a parting, how it looks, I've filtered for all the photos from the time lapse. We'll see if it was in fact a super slow motion twist. Hey, um, I don't know if you can fairly call that a twist. Cool. Anyway, the video of the GoPro, like I said, the video held up for the entire time. These photos will all be up tomorrow. Scope that out. Follow the gallery, Dion Facebook. But I hardly use that thing anymore. It's because I don't want to. Yeah, follow Student Bonfire. Bonfire at Student Bonfire. Bonfire at Bonfire on Facebook. Bonfire.ag is the website. Outstanding season. God, so incredible to watch. A great year. Another incredible year. Sippers. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether we're playing them or anybody else. Sid Aggies. Outstanding season. Build it.